Or at least once or twice with David Walker, who's now being mentioned as a possible independent candidate for senator. How do you feel about David Walker? Do you have any regrets about seemingly endorsing his positions?
Well, I didn't endorse his positions, and I know that people criticize me for giving him a platform. I don't agree with some of what he says. I think a lot of what he says is very important. I think it's very easy for our system to ignore long-term problems. And David is sounding an alarm on a lot of those long-term problems. I don't agree with everything he says. He's made some comments that I very much disagree with, but no, I don't. And I also think that a dialogue that delegitimizes somebody whose standpoint we disagree with and suggests that that individual is somehow not worthy of being in the marketplace of ideas is a terrible way to go. And so I will listen to and participate in a dialogue with people with whom I don't necessarily agree, because that's a healthy thing to do.
Do you think cutting Social Security benefits should be on the table in terms of waiting longer for people to qualify for full Social Security benefits, or somehow cutting back on benefits for higher or middle income people, as David Walker's been advocating?
I'll do that. That's all right.
I would never support cutting back benefits for current Social Security recipients, or anybody who's close to being a recipient. You can't tell somebody who's on Social Security right now, guess what, we're taking $100 out of your check. I don't think it's fair to take somebody who's 5 years from being in the Social Security system that we're changing the deal on you. I think it is fair to say to somebody like me, I'm 44, many people in my generation, if you asked them, they would say, oh, I'm not expecting anything out of Social Security, whatever. You'd find a variety of responses. I think it is fair to say that we need to do what we did in 1983, which is come to an agreement that makes for sustainability. I would be open to considering that there's one thing, and I usually try to be very careful to say that when we go into any negotiation, nobody should take anything off the table, just because I think that's a useful mechanism with which to start a negotiation. I will never support anything that looks like the privatization of Social Security. But I'm willing to talk about limited means testing of Social Security, an increase on the cap on which Social Security tax is withheld, and something that was proposed both by the Rivlin, was it Rivlin? Anyway, both of the commissions, Bowles Simpson and others, proposed indexing the retirement age to longevity. So long as we take into account the fact that some people do physical labor as a job, and you can't necessarily assume that they're in the same boat as a white-collar worker.
How could you possibly take that into account? Different Social Security maturities depending on what kind of work you did?
Yeah.
Wow.
Bowles Simpson proposed an earlier retirement age for people in hardship, and I don't think they proposed a mechanism. Look, in 1983 we raised the retirement age, right? So it's not like we've never done it before. When Social Security was first put together in the 1930s, the age of retirement was actually pretty close to the mean mortality rate. Now, of course, there's a huge divergence. And by the way, the percentage of people in this country who rely entirely on the Social Security system for their income in retirement has gone way, way up versus the 1930s, 1940s, 1950s. So, yeah, I'm willing. Look, there will be a deal struck that will look a little bit like 1983 that hopefully strikes most of us as optimally just, that doesn't hurt lower income workers more than higher income workers. You get some combination of means testing and protection of people with lower income, and we're eventually going to come to an agreement that will look a little bit like what was done in 1983.